Hi, Dan Steppergan here. This is just part 2 of trust. So last time I talked about how trust is something that's our decision, it's our choice, it's something we have to put in God. And today I'm just going to carry on from that. I mentioned trust is a good response to fear, and really that comes from Psalm 56:3. It says, "Whenever I am afraid, I will trust in you. Whenever I'm afraid, I will trust in you." And I don't know about you, but it definitely has been a bit of an attack on the emotions, this whole coronavirus and the outbreaks we've seen on the media and in various countries, and now in the US, which is where I live, although I have a UK accent. And I think a response is, it's interesting, I think David wrote this psalm, it's interesting how it's not saying I'm never going to be afraid. It's saying whenever I am afraid, I'm going to put my trust in God. I'm going to trust you, God. And so I think emotions may hit of fear, of panic. They may hit you. And if they do, your response should be, I'm going to trust God. Because what fear does is it robs us of faith. It robs us of peace. And it's really not something we should be in. The Bible says really clearly we should fear God, who can save our souls, and there needs to be that reverence and respect for him and placing him in that spot, not anything else. So, and I know that's a different kind of fear, but it's good to replace it with something, and that is to have absolute confidence in God. And another verse that I want to share is a foundational verse for me for a number of years. It's Isaiah 26:3, and it says, "You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you." I'll read that again. It's talking about God, will keep him, us, in perfect peace, because, whose mind is stayed on God, because he trusts in God. And it's really sort of interesting verse, because God's responsible for the peace. He's the one that's going to give us peace. We're responsible to keep our minds stayed on him. Why do we keep our minds stayed on him? Because we trust in him. We're looking to him as our source to get us through, for strength, for wisdom, for guidance, for healing, for protection, for all the fruits of spirit to be manifest in our lives at this time and throughout the rest of our lives. And it's interesting, as I said yesterday, we have responsibility, God has responsibility. And don't try and do what God's supposed to be doing, but make sure we focus on what we're supposed to be doing. And that's to keep our minds stayed on him. And I don't know about you, but that's a challenge, especially at this time. And after this, I'm going to actually do another video on what should our response be to the coronavirus. So how should Christians respond to the coronavirus? So I'll do that next. And some of these will overlap, but I've got couple more scriptures I want to share about keeping your mind stayed on him. How do we do that? Well, 2 Corinthians 10, verse 4 and 5 lays it out really well. "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ." Really, I want to focus on that last bit. Bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. So we're captive. If you take something captive, you totally surround it. You control it. You almost squash it. And you take it captive. That means you have control over it. And that's what God's saying here through Paul in this word. When it comes to our mind, that's where the weapons we need to use are actually to pull down these strongholds in our mind, to pull down every argument, everything that sets itself up that's not obedient to Christ. So that's a key. And if you're not guarding what you're thinking about, it's hard to keep your mind stayed on him. It will go elsewhere. Another thing leading on from that is, it's not just good to captivate something and then there's a empty space. So what are you going to replace it with? And I think the Bible's really clear on this. Philippians 4:8. "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are good report. If there's any virtue, if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. The things which you've learned and received and heard and saw in me, these do, and the God of peace will be with you. Notice there, whatever is noble, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are good, what's of a good report, anything of virtue, anything praiseworthy, meditate, think, focus on those things. And that's definitely a way. Sorry, I've got a little one just crashing in on me here. So whatever those things are that you're struggling with, replace them with those things. Think about those things which are going to help you in your mind. And the reason I want to leave you with one verse which is in connection with this, and that's because God's will, this is God's will for us. It says in John, that's found in 3 John, there's only one chapter in this, verse 2. Beloved, I pray that, or sometimes it's, I wish above all things. So this is God's will, that you may prosper and be in health, just as your soul prospers. So I hope that encourages you to trust God, knowing that that's his will for your life, to be protected at this time, to prosper, to be able to provide for your family and for those you love and for those in need, as well as be in health. Let's keep our minds stayed on him, and he will give us peace. And we keep our minds stayed on him because we trust in him. He's the source. He's what we're looking towards. And let's think about all those good, noble, praiseworthy things. And let's keep our mind on track here. Well, bless you. Hope that helps. Feel free to like, post, comment, and we'll see you next time. Bless you. Bye-bye.